Hello everyone, Jason Alea back here again, and welcome to my review of The Batman. I know I have black eye makeup on. I straightened my hair a little bit. I have not gone emo. I've just gone Robert Pattinson Batman mode for the video. And this is basically another reboot of the Batman character following the Ben Affleck version from the DCEU, which is still continuing on to The Flash. But this film had a bit of a troubled production history. It started off as being a Batfleck solo film, but then Ben Affleck dropped out of the film entirely from directing and acting and as a writer, and that's due to alcoholism and stuff from his personal life getting to him. So he wasn't in the best not shape, but best mindset to play the character. So eventually the film passed on to Matt Reeves, who directed Cloverfield and the last two Planet of the Apes films, which are fantastic movies that I highly recommend. Matt Reeves is a director I truly respect. All the films I've seen of his have been extremely well made and not just fun entertainment, but very thoughtful and well written films. So I was very interested to see what his take on the Batman character will be. And this film it's in its own continuity. It's like the Joker film. It's its own universe. There's no other characters, no Superman, no Wonder Woman, just Batman. And this follows Bruce Wayne and his fight against crime in Gotham City, and he's trying to get rid of the streets of all the filthy criminals that are out trying to make Gotham a worse place than it is. And then a villain named the Riddler comes into play, and he as Batman and Jim Gordon are trying to discover what the Riddler's plan is and what he's trying to do, who he is. And along the way, Batman meets Catwoman, Selina Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz, who finds herself in the midst of this situation, and something about her past is integral to solving who the Riddler is and what he's trying to do. Now, this movie I've been very excited for. I was following the production. It had a troubled production, not just because of Ben Affleck, but because of COVID when they were trying to film. A lot of films, including Spider-Man No Way Home, you could tell that they had COVID troubles. This movie, you cannot tell. It all looks seamless. But aside from the fact that this film is very consistent in its look and directing, how does it hold up as a movie? The Batman is magnificent as a film. This is an entirely different take on the character, which is really refreshing to see. This is more of a detective story rather than a typical superhero film. Sure, you got action sequences, you got the Batmobile chase sequence and the final battle, but most of the film, 80% of it, is just Batman and Jim Gordon and Selina Kyle, all in the midst of trying to unlock certain riddles, trying to discover certain things, people trying to find people who could possibly lead to another person. This is basically a detective story, and it is showcasing Batman's way of solving riddles, unlocking puzzles. It's so fun to see, and it's so refreshing to see in the Batman movie. I mean, sure, we got a little bit of that in the Dark Knight trilogy, but this is a full-on detective film. Very reminiscent to films like Zodiac and Seven, which this film took pretty heavy inspiration from, especially with its look. as for the production design, Gotham feels very rough and dirty. And compared to how Gotham looks in previous films, this Gotham looks dirty, damp, disgusting. You don't want to be there. It almost reminded me of the Arkham video games, which if you haven't played, they're very great games. This very much reminded me of that Gotham. And Bruce Wayne's house in the Batcave, it is very, very creepy. And you could definitely tell that the Waynes are now an isolated group of wealthy people now. I love the whole production design of it. It is very dirty. I don't know, it's just, I love dirty, horrible looking places, I guess. But overall, the production design of Gotham and everything, the architecture, you can almost see ghouls ghoul stones in each side of a building or something like that. It is that kind of look for Gotham, and I loved it. For performances, Robert Pattinson as Batman, in my opinion, was really good. As Bruce Wayne, I like him, though there is definitely a clear similarity between Batman and Bruce Wayne. Like, you could probably tell that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but to me, this version of Bruce Wayne still works because this is mostly still a Bruce Wayne who isn't completely over the deaths of his family as a kid and is still haunting him even as Bruce Wayne. Now, this persona might go away in the next film if this movie's successful, but this is definitely a take on the character who has lost a lot in his past and is not really all that happy-go-lucky and is not a playboy like the other interpretations of the characters. It's a very different take, and I can understand why some people may not like it or why some people may like it. But to me, it works. Jim Gordon is really good. I love the chemistry between Jim and Batman here. They're like two best friends trying to unsolve this mystery on who the Riddler is and what he's doing. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I cannot even tell that's Colin Farrell as the Penguin. The makeup is that good and his voice is awesome. I cannot even tell if it is even Colin Farrell's voice. He disappeared into the role entirely and the Penguin was just a joy to see. Andy Serkis as Alfred, while minimal screen time he has, is still really good and is very integral to Bruce Wayne's character arc and what he's going through in the film. And Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle Catwoman, I thought was awesome. She is badass, sexy, and her backstory and what she's going through throughout the film is actually pretty cruel and depressing, and something that I did not expect to see from this version of the character, but I really enjoyed it, and her struggles and her relationship between Batman and her. I thought it was well handled, and definitely there is room for a romance between them throughout the trilogy, if there is going to be a trilogy. And as for Paul Dano as the Riddler, I found him really creepy. Though there are times where he can overact just a tiny bit, for the most part, he felt like a more realistic version of the Riddler, and I thought that his take on this character was overall unsettling. And there's a lot of callbacks to the Joker in which he does some video recordings, as you've seen in the trailers. It kind of reminded me of that. just overall, the Riddler here was very creepy and menacing, and his plan is very diabolical. But him, when he's not behind the Riddler persona, he is still unsettling. I love Paul Dano in this film. In terms of the structure of the story, it is a very slow movie, and it is 3 hours long. But I felt like the runtime and pacing was just perfect. Even if the ending does go a tiny bit too long for me, I still thought that this film was very well paced, and it helped me get into the mystery aspect, letting me look at every detail on the screen, trying to discover the mystery of what's going on along with the characters. And since I cared about these characters, I was invested in this mystery, and the movie was never boring for that. I was very much engaged throughout the entire runtime, and while the ending does go a bit too long, it still left me wanting to see more from this universe. And I honestly cannot wait for the next film if they ever do make it. As for real issues, there's a line delivery by Catwoman near the end of the film, in the beginning of the third act, I believe, and closing the second act. And I felt like her line delivery of a certain line that I know might turn some people away. It did not feel natural. What it's about did not fit the story or the themes of what's going on. And it just came across as the studio wanted something in there. And I just felt like it took me out of a very important moment between Catwoman and Batman. And as I said, the runtime is a tad bit too long, but it's really just a nitpick, and I'm not knocking the movie off points of any of that. Performances are great. The look and cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. This is a very beautiful looking film. There's a lot of shots that have a lot of attention to detail, that visually tells a story in a very consistent manner, and leaves us with images that are basically unforgettable and stuff that we wanted to see from Batman. Overall, this film was absolutely incredible to me. It very much lived up to the hype, though not a perfect film. As for a reinvention of the Batman character and being more of a detective story, this is the kind of Batman movie that I can see myself watching over and over again. Even though it may not be my personal favorite, I still think that goes to The Dark Knight Rises, in my opinion. This is still a very great Batman film, and I'm going to give The Batman an A. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.